Hello, writers and crafters. I'm Valerie Ihsan.
And I'm Erick Mertz.
And this is episode 96 of the podcast. And it is December 21st as we record this. Happy solstice, Eric.
Happy solstice to you.
Yay.
Is it like, what's it at 8 o'clock today? 8, 9?
I didn't look to see like what time it became, crossed over into it. And arguably it could be, late tonight and actually be like, yeah, I don't know when. This is just on my calendar what day is recorded as solstice. And I like celebrating solstice. It resonates with me more than, Christmas, or because I was raised in a cult and we didn't celebrate holidays. So I didn't have any like traditional upbringing around the holidays. And so I just did whatever, my husband's wanted, whatever their traditions were. And
Right.
Ali is Turkish and didn't celebrate, he didn't grow up in a Christian country, it was secular.
Right.
He didn't grow up with any religion, but so we don't really, and my kids are gone, so there just doesn't seem to be any point we were just driving in from dinner, I think, the other night, and the streets, the houses are lit up with Christmas lights and stuff, and ours isn't. And he was like, oh, we look like we're not in the spirit of things. And I think mostly that's just because we're lazy and we don't want to put up the lights. But it'd be cool, it'd be pretty, but
right.
Never get around to it.
I think the whole idea of the lights representing the spirit of things. I don't know. I have that. I sometimes have that. We're the only house on this side of the street that's not lit up. But spirit of things is so much more than just like the outward showing of lights. I mean, warmth and welcoming and generosity is what the time of the year is supposed to be about.
Yeah, and we hang out with friends a lot too. So that's our Christmas spirit, I guess. We have a lot of traditions of hanging out with friends. That's what we do.
And I wonder how much, like, I don't know. I don't want to sound like negative, but like the outward showing of lights doesn't exactly mean you're welcome to come in and have a cup of cider, So I think that, I don't know, center yourself on who you are and not what you're not. And I think you're always going to be happier.
Well, I think that's why I like solstice, because it has to do, I think, more with honoring the seasonal change, which I dig.
Right.
And also, back in the day when we were agricultural and we would go in and harvest would get over and everything would shut down, it would be dark and you weren't farming anymore. So you just sort of came inside by the fire. So it's more of it's dark outside and it's more of a finding your own inner light and how can you brighten up the darkness that's around you. And that's kind of what solstice means to me. So,
yeah.
So we're going to be lighting some candles tonight at dinner and etc. So nice segue. The main topic today is tarot for your business. So we'll go through the tarot spread that I did for the year and more tarot stuff. Announcements and such. There's no new patrons this week, but Sean Sharp raised his tier to Super Fantastic Fan, which is awesome. Wow. Thank you so much, Sean. He now gets all the ebooks that I publish in addition to his other benefits. So thank you for our existing patrons for believing in us and in the podcast. And for as low as $1 a month, you can get a shout out on the podcast. We can make announcements for you. I'll get you a postcard in the mail. And there's lots of other cool benefits at other tiers. No comments this time. There was actually, but it looked kind of spammy, so I left it out. You know how you get those review quotes, like, and they're like, "This was so great," and then it's like a ping back link to like some tax service or something like that.
There's a new, my SEO person said there's new spam coming, so get ready. And boy, it was like the next day I started getting spam from all these odd places, comments on my site that are like, do your dog's nails need clipping?
Oh God, you need like a plug-in to block that.
Oh gosh. Well, that's what she was alluding to, that the plugin, like whatever whatever the spammers are doing, it's beating the plugin that you have. So get
Oh,
ready, because there's going to be, and there were like 48,000 comments of that ilk within like a few days. It was pretty funny.
oh man. Okay, well, I have a couple announcements. I'm doing this
Yay.
author action plan group accountability coaching. I know that's kind of a mouthful, but it's sort of
It's a
like
lot of
the
stuff.
keywords for this thing
Right.
that I'm doing. It's starting in January 3rd. It's going to run for 3 months, and $500 includes group coaching with other writers every other week for 3 months,
Oh,
plus a
wow.
customized author action plan for one of your larger projects or goals. And podcast listeners get a 10% discount, making the cost $450. And you can use the discount code podcast, all caps, at the checkout on my shopping page.
That's a
So
great,
that's one.
that's a great service. Sounds, I could see here where a lot of people could use that. That sounds great.
Right now, the one I'm starting January 3rd is going to be Tuesdays, roughly every other Tuesday, 2 to 3 p.m. Pacific time. So I think that works out to like 4 Central and 5 Eastern on Tuesdays. Another announcement, I have a female writer that is looking for another female identifying writer to share lodging with at the retreat.
Ooh.
So the shared retreat ticket price is $650, and that includes all the food and the lodging, instruction, retreat, coaching, all of that. So please reach out to me if you have any questions, or if you want the PayPal link for the shared retreat ticket. And then, of course, the Writer Craft Writing Retreat scheduled for August 24th through the 27th. And the alumni and patron price is $775. And the early bird price is still happening right now through the end of January. And that's $800 for the 3 days, 3 nights, all meals, all lodging, etc. Monthly payments are an option. We want to celebrate our 100th episode with you, so please send in that audio clip or a message. That if you want to send in a comment, make sure it's labeled, for the 100th episode. Otherwise, I'll just read it out like a regular comment, and I want to save up all the 100th episode comments for that episode, which is on. Let's see. So the 100th episode ends up being January 18th, and we'll play those clips on air. So. Also, we need topic suggestions. Please send those in, writercraftpodcast@gmail.com. Any announcements on your end?
Nothing significant. It's just, this is the product. This is sort of I would say this is the time of the year for me where I'm kind of like gathering, kind of finding the loose ends of, I've just gotten some consulting done on kind of looking at how I'm reaching new readers, and that has led me to kind of recalibrate what I'm going to write next. I was going to just go into the next book in my series when the current book is done, but the consultant suggested that I create an exclusive cookie story. The exclusive, this is the only place you're going to get it is through the mailing list. And I actually found a story in my notebook that was
from the idea library.
From the idea library, it was like a perfect little prequel story. And then I've spent the last few days just breaking it out, and actually it's pretty good.
Cool.
So I'm gonna probably, and then I'm just and I'm working on the Patreon stories, and I sent the first batch to you to look at, and I'll probably do the next 2 or 3 of those. So it's just, for me, like a good time of year. I think the motivation to be super like checklisty goes away about this time of year. And
Not for me. This is when the checklists really come out.
Well, I'm still hitting the mark. So, I still am doing the things, but most of my regular clients, the client work that I have in process, a lot of them said, yeah, let's put off a call until mid next week or the first week of the year. I don't want to think about this right now. And you know, they're not throwing in the towel on the project at all, but they're just, I think people are just sort of retreating a little bit.
Yeah, it's holiday madness and busyness.
Yeah. So I'm retreating with it. I broke out that story. I've got a few other little things that I want to get done that are more, you know, more passion projects than they are like, but may become business things. I don't know. So
That's
yeah.
exciting.
Yeah, I think the Patreon will launch mid next month. I think probably around the time we're doing our 100th episode, I'll have that ready to go. It's just like
Yeah.
now I'm hemming and hawing over the graphic side of things. I'm
Oh yeah.
want to get something that looks good out there and have some branding around it. So
I'm hoping to have my memoir published at that time too. Mid January is what I'm aiming for. So I did start looking at keywords and categories yesterday, and you know, I have the cover, but I have to get for the print. I have the audiobook cover and the ebook cover, but in order to get the print cover for the paperback and the hardcover and all that, then I need the extra stuff, you know, like the spine size and the, you know, all of that stuff. So I have to gather all that, and I'm waiting for a book blurb to come back that I would like to have on the cover if possible. And so I'm just sort of like biding my time for that. I started invoicing people for my coaching cohort. And
you're
I've
waiting.
been,
Hold on, you're waiting for that to come back. Did you have the blurb professionally written?
I
Or did you?
asked an author
Oh,
colleague
okay.
to read the book and give me a testimonial, like a book blurb, not the book description, a book blurb.
Got it. Okay.
And I want that, you know, on the cover if possible. So if not, then I'll just put it in, you know, if timing becomes an issue, then I'll just put it like in the copy, in the website copy, or
Right.
like the Amazon book description, that sort of stuff. You can add it there. Anything else you've done this last week? What
Not
are you
really.
reading? What are you reading?
I am still reading. I'm about to finish with Blood Rights, which is a Dresden Files book. Really good. I mean, it's there's something about those Jim Butcher urban fantasies that just they're intoxicating. They're easy to read. They're great. So I'm looking forward to the end of that. And I also picked up a book that I'm kind of picking at, you know, something jumped the stack. I was at the library. So I usually go to, in Portland, the Multnomah County Library System. My regular library was the Holgate Library, which was a short little walk from my house. It was I mean, I knew all the librarians, and like I was just so local there. It was ridiculous. But the Multnomah County Library System is tearing that library down and building a new one. And the new one's going to be great. You know, it's going to be one of these just library plexes. You know, it's going to have 2 stories and study rooms, and it's going to be great. I'm sad to see it go. I was sad to see it go. Elijah and I went there on the last day, and we kind of took pictures and acted like library geeks. And I was really like a little upset that I was going to have to go to the Woodstock Library, which is the next nearest library. But I quickly fell in love with the Woodstock Library. They have a really great like new book. Like you come in and you're greeted by new books. You actually have to like resist new books when you're walking through the door to get to the hold stacks and anything else. So I found a book called Future Stories by David Christian that I've been picking at. It's really like it's a book about just like the future, like what the future is going to look like. You know, some of the uncertainties of what we're facing as a planet, some of the spooky, dangerous, and also wonderful things that and it's sort of written like future stories. Like here's what the story of this aspect of our life is going to be when it's told in the future. And it's an interesting way to look at. I think when we talk about the future, we talk about the future from a like standing back from it. You know, it's out there, and oh my gosh, what is that gonna? It's scary. It's different. But the way this guy writes it, it's a little bit more. David Christian writes it like it's here. You are. Here's the story of it, and let me excuse me. Let me show you. You know what that story looks like while you're in it, in that future. And I think it's just an interesting take on the future. So
So is it science fiction? or is
No,
it?
it's social science. It's
Okay.
nonfiction, um,
Okay.
which I don't know if I've had many nonfiction books on this list, or on my list this year, or talked
Mm-hmm.
about in this podcast. I don't read a ton of nonfiction, so the fact that this one jumped off the shelf felt fortuitous, and I went with it. And
Cool.
yeah, and it's got that nice new book feel. It's got the crinkly like library plastic on it, so when I open it up, it does that little crinkle thing that I love. What are you reading?
Awesome. Midnight at the Blackbird Cafe by Heather
Oh,
Weber. Yeah. So that one I just started not too long ago. I finished up the Golem and the Genie, and I also read Gender Queer by Maya Kobabe, that graphic memoir. Have you read it?
no, no.
It's pretty cool, actually. So yeah, I finished a couple books and started the Heather Weber book, which I've decided she's like one of my new favorite authors. I really like her writing. So that's what I've been doing.
I
I
love
don't I
the
don't have an up next yet because I just, got
right.
into this book. So I'm
We'll
too into it.
walk into the library. Maybe one will greet you.
No.
Multnomah County Library System does their Everybody Reads book every year. They do one, and this year's, soon to be last year's, was a graphic novel memoir, which was really fascinating. I love that graphic novels have gotten a little more intimate, a little more. It's not, it's not all Marvel. It's a lot more. It's a different kind of storytelling, but this one was really unique. It was, yeah. So I'm into seeing where that
What was that
genre
called?
and medium go.
Good Talk or something like that. What was the name of
Yeah,
that?
I think it was Good Talk. I don't. It was it was about a
Mm.
mother
What
and
was the
like sort
author?
of.
Mira something? I forget the
Well, you're
author's
more
name.
on this than I am.
Well, we sold
Let
it at the
me.
bookstore for a while when it was Everybody Reads,
Oh, you had it too. I think it's Mira Jacob. Yeah, Mira Jacob.
Yeah,
Did you read it?
I did not. No, the graphic storytelling doesn't really reach out to me. I dig prose and
Right.
the word pictures that come from prose. I really like that. But um
Yeah, that's a hard
I
thing to
actually
miss.
bought the Genderqueer for someone else as a gift, and I wanted to read it too. So that's why I that's why I read it. But it's really good
Hopefully they're not
information,
listening.
and well, I already said, yeah, they already know.
You're getting this book, but I'm getting it first.
Well, I got
I
this
love it.
book for you. I'm going to send it to you. That was what
Got it.
I
Got it.
wanted to know
Okay.
if they'd read it already. So, all right,
I
let's talk
miss.
about. Oh, sorry.
Oh, I was gonna say I miss the word picture part of it. Like I do miss in that intimate storytelling. I think my mind misses creating that picture, but I don't know. I think if you do it right, it's a way to refresh the genre a little bit. You can refresh that a little bit, and I think Mira Jacob was really successful in like kind of refreshing the cultural conversation about race and politics, and by
Mm-hmm.
doing it graphically, because there was a little bit of humor in it,
Mm-hmm.
um, in the graphics. So yeah. Anyway,
Well,
let's
and
put a
I
button on
really
that one.
appreciate that there are multiple ways to tell stories,
Yeah. Yeah.
and I think that's really cool. So,
And there
all
may
right.
be more that we've never seen. There's maybe a new way to tell stories that we haven't even thought of yet. Who
Yeah, a
knows?
friend of mine actually was listening to an audio production, like an old-timey radio show.
Oh,
Um,
cool.
um, and then I actually in Eugene there was a group, I think it was called Radio Redux or Radio Redo. I don't know how to pronounce that, but
Hmm.
it was audio productions on the stage. So it was like a play. You would go to the theater and watch this group of actors put on an audio play, like A Christmas Carol or something like that, or The Maltese Falcon. And so they would you would watch them do the sound effects, and it
With a
was
little ding
really
ding.
cool. Yeah, it was
Yeah.
really
Yeah.
cool. So it was kind of a mashup of audio production and theater. It was really
Right.
cool. So I've seen a
Yeah.
couple of those before. That's a great way to storytell. It's
Yeah.
kind of a hybrid. Let's
And it
talk about
reminds us.
tarot. Let's
Yeah,
talk
let's do
about
that.
tarot.
We can talk about
Okay.
books forever. Let's talk about
I
the
know,
cards.
right? So, what I've been doing for the last, I don't know, maybe 3 years is when I plan for the coming year, first I'll do a end of the year review, and then kind of like what we did last week, we kind of look at how the year had gone and sort of review it and sort of make plans for the coming year. And part of that making plans, this isn't a planning thing, but it just seems to naturally go with it, is to use a tarot deck or an oracle deck and do a spread, draw cards for each month of the year, plus one for kind of an overarching theme for the whole year. And then I write up those, here's on the YouTubes. So I write them all, consolidate them with stickers and write them all in the back of my planner for the coming year. This is my new planner for 2023. So that means that when I get ready to go into the new month, I can refer back to the card that I drew before for January and kind of use that as a thematic jumping off point for the year. If I get too mired into this is a fortune telling thing and I've got to watch out for July because this thing's going to happen, then I get all manically weird. So I refrain from that and just use this more as a tool for as a thematic jumping off point. I think that's a really great way to look at it. So and I prefer using oracle decks. They seem to make more sense to me than tarot, but I did feel like using a tarot deck this time, and I've got several, up in my shelves. I've got several tarot decks and several oracle decks. So I just sort of picked the one that spoke to me, I guess, the most, and sat down and did it. So for January, I think I'm just going to run through the months and kind of what the theme is. I can say the card, but yeah, I guess I'll say the name of the card and then kind of what the vibe is for that card and how I think it will relate to business for that month. That was kind of my plan. How did you do it? How did you want to look at tarot for business?
Oh, I actually was kind of interested in how you look at it a little more comprehensively than I do. I turn a card every day and I look at that. I take that card. I try to interpret it. Excuse me. I try to interpret it myself, what I think it means, and then I go in and I read a little bit about the card and what its traditional meanings are, and I try to do the immediate what my immediate response to that is, and how like what I immediately feel like that connection is to either business or life, and I try to use it as to create an unexpected thought, unexpected feeling, unexpected association. So like this morning it was the Queen of Cups and in the reversed position, and so I turned it over, went about my morning, had a cup of tea, thought about it a little bit, and then went and did a little dive on what the card means. And then then my immediate impression is, well, this card is about emotional honesty and needing to be emotionally honest. Like, well, what does that mean? Like, what does that mean for today? What does that mean for the ongoing theme for the day? So I kind of look at it more like in the daily perspective and as a new jumping off point, hopefully like creating new direction and thought. I would love, I'm really enamored with the idea of what you do. So
before
I
I
would like
talk
to
about
use this deck for more.
Okay. So one thing I wanted to ask also though, so you do a daily practice, and then do you start out the year with like a theme regardless of the tarot deck? But I mean, do you just like plan on, okay, today or this year I'm really going to be focusing on manifesting joy? Or do you have like a one word? Some people have like one word for the year, that becomes like their touchstone, and whenever they feel unmoored, they can go back to their word for that year. Do you have one of those?
No, and that's a great place to, yeah, to I guess extrapolate. I guess I have that part of my like processing is very new to me. I'll admit, like that's something that I probably, like the whole idea of like what am I striving for, what do I want to manifest, what do I want, like what is missing, like that sort of thinking on a bigger level um is very new. I mean, I'm a day I was, probably still am to a large extent, a day-to-day person.
Mhm.
um but I've recognized that themes in your life can creep in, themes in your life can take over if you live in the day-to-day exclusively. So I've started to, I guess, just look at like and check in with myself where I'm at, and where, and say like, okay, what's the theme, like what themes are happening in my life right now.
Mhm.
When Elijah was sick, for example, I mean, I have a 8-year-old, he's sick like most kids as his age get sick that are in school. I really put, at that point, I said, look, I'm going to start trying to manifest. I need to start manifesting some health. How am I going to do that? And I started just building daily practices, daily reminders to say like how to reinvigorate what I do for health.
Mhm.
Um, and what I hope to get out of that is a creating new habits. I think creating habits is a skill, and that's how as I'm getting older, I've started to like work on the skill of creating habits, is sitting back, looking at what needs to be done, forging new habits in that area, and then hoping, and then working to keep them around. So I don't do the whole year thing. A year is a really long time. If I look at where 2022 started, I don't know if I could look at a word or a theme. um I know I have goals, but as far as like themes and words and things, I think I take those a little bit more like as I need them. I think the ongoing, if there is an ongoing word, it is like, check in, like always being
Mhm.
willing to look at what needs
Looking
to be
for
looked at.
patterns, and yeah,
Yeah,
no,
and
it
just
makes sense.
responding to what's, not reacting,
Mhm.
responding to what's
Mhm.
going on around, and being and you live in a home with another person, or a family, or you work with people, so like checking in with the themes around those things too, and working at like being responsive, not reactive to what's going on, what the rest of the world brings you.
Yes, I agree. Okay, well, January, the card that I drew was the 5 of Cups, and so that was kind of a moving on, or acceptance, or forgiveness. Lamentation was a word that came up in the book. Um, and and the cups that were out of sight of the this particular deck is the 5 cent tarot deck, and so it has a lot of animals on it.
Mm-hmm.
And so this was a cicada, and it was like upside down in a cup, and then underneath him were upright cups that were out of his sight. And so that signified like there's people around you that can support you and lift you up, um, even if you can't see it. And so
Right.
that was kind of comforting. And so I see for business, the message I got from that card was, what's done is done, and it's time to move on. And so because January is my last month at Tsunami,
Mm-hmm.
I feel like it was a card that allowed me to, I guess the theme is, yes, I'm going to feel sad about leaving this iconic, you know, community bookstore that's been around for 27 years. And, I'm still going to buy my books there, but
Right.
I'm not going to be part of that like daily, weekly side of things. And so that's sad. And even though it's what I
Yeah.
want to happen, it's still going to be disruptive, and there will be some regrets, and it's solid income that comes in on a regular basis that I'll no longer have, so
Right.
there's some, pessimism that could come in and take over if I'm not careful. So just letting that kind of, it's time to move on. This was a great experience, but and while I'm feeling icky, I do have support, even if I can't see it at the moment, and
Right.
it just seemed like a card that meant, hang on.
Right. Right.
You're
Right.
moving on. You're going to move through this. It's going to be cool. So that's January. So, yeah, so that's kind of how it related to my business.
I can see that.
February is the Hermit. And so that was all about retreating to my private world, having alone time, a lot of soul searching, self-discovery, isolation, maybe some loneliness and withdrawal, but again, that seemed perfect timing because that's the first month where I'll be doing my own, full-time author services, author business. And I'm going to need to like check in a lot with myself and have a lot of alone time and think about how I want my business to, be from here on out. Of course, it will evolve and change through the years and days, but yeah, I think that February will be kind of like I'll be at home every day, so that seemed to be
And as far
pretty
as atmosphere
interesting too.
goes, that's like, let's just admit that's the dreariest month in our calendar for me.
It is. It
The rain
is.
has been here forever. Yeah, spring is like 6, 8 weeks away, but that's the long slog. So yeah, that that seems to fit. Great month to be a hermit.
Um, then the animal for that card was an anglerfish, the ones that
Interesting.
are really deep in the ocean and they have their own light.
Oh, I love
Um,
those. The
yeah,
lanternfish with the light.
I think it's
Yep.
called an anglerfish. I'm not sure
Okay.
why. But anyway, yeah, so there's like this unseen world, underneath that
Mm,
I can access. And yeah, so that was an interesting little tidbit too for February. March is the 9 of matches. So this particular deck doesn't use swords. It's needles for swords, and I forget what the matches is for, but it
like yeah. Well, yeah.
um
What would it be? Cups
the
or?
cups were thimbles, and so they're
Oh,
just
okay.
different manifestations of whatever. So this is the 9 of matches. I don't actually know what the traditional um, tarot would be, 9 of something else. But that was a parrot. And so it was all about positive energy and divine beauty and colorful, brilliant glory and struggle and fatigue. Yes. But this kind of feeling like that all is possible and, um, and having a strong will. And also, in addition to that, sort of like tending your wounds before battle, like, okay,
Hmm.
it's going to be great, but let me like gird up before I head out. So I like that one too. Again, that just for business seems like I can be positive. I've spent all this time reflecting in February, so now March is going to be like really divine glory, and I'm going to head out, and everything's possible and imminent, good stuff's
Right.
coming.
You're rounding a corner.
Yeah, for sure. April is the 8 of matches, and that was a hot air balloon and a bird in flight, like a seagull. So this was air travel and quick decisions and acceleration. And in reverse, it would be more like regression or slowing down. And so I like the juxtaposition of acceleration, but checking in, do that slow down, just don't go too far, don't burn out.
Right.
Um, but it's a nothing can stand in my way, cleared for takeoff sort of. All right. And so I'm wondering if maybe that is the trajectory of coming home and working full time for the first time, like
Hmm.
I'm going to be doing the reflecting and trying to figure out how it's going to work. And then I've got all this anticipation and okay, let's get started. And here's how I think it's going to be. And then I'm just going for it in April. I wonder if that's how long it will take to sort of get into it. May is the 7 of buttons in this deck, represented with a beaver. And so that is patience and perseverance and diligence, ingenuity, basically just like you're going to reap the rewards of your hard work. So again, that made sense, like the trajectory seems to be just great, like I totally understand how this is going to maybe pan out at home in the April like trajectory sort of thing. Like, yes, nothing's going to stand in the way and I'm really going off for this business. And then in May, same thing, like, okay, this is kind of a slog, but all this hard work's going to pay off. So that's motivating for me, personally. And then in June, the 10 of needles is the porcupine. So this was like that, ooh, I think maybe this is kind of scary, because this was more about unexpected betrayal. And but also that even though endings are inevitable, finality can be freedom, protection's always available, regeneration, survival. So it is hopeful, it is like you got this sort of vibe. But I couldn't help but wonder, like, well, what does that mean business wise? How does that relate? So I'm not sure. I don't, of course, have all the answers, and this is just, a game. Like you said, it's just a
Right.
way to like look at thematically. So thematically, business wise for June, if something does come up, I can just remember that opportunities coming. I can rise above anything that goes wrong. And that's kind of, I think, the vibe that I'm going to start out with June, looking at this card again when June comes around and be like, all right, I got this. Whatever shows up business wise, I'm going to be able to make my way through it and just free myself of any negativity that would come of this, and just, rise above that negativity.
And that's mid-year. So you're looking at, you'll have been in practice for a while.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
July's card was the strength card. So that kind of seems to follow the June upset, whatever that's going to be, like that strong will, affirmations, discipline, stuff like being balanced, and using boundaries for protection. So that seems to flow. Like it was really interesting as I was drawing these cards. They seem to really, one after the other, make sense.
Right. Yeah, they sound like, it feels like you're telling a story that makes like logically, like a
right?
logical.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like there's the rising action and all that. So
Yeah.
August is the high priestess. That's perception, intuition, expression, magic, mystery, seeking answers in dreams, trusting your inner voice. That's also when the retreat is happening.
I was
So
going to say, yeah,
so that seems to, like
that
follow your
fits.
gut kind of works. I like using that advice for business and life. September is creativity, intuition, inspiring. The card said intuition and creativity are at work here, inspiring us to embrace a new love, which promises to fill our hearts and fulfill our wishes. So business wise, this sounds like, maybe a new collaboration will happen, or maybe I'll get really into narration of audiobooks, or like, I feel like maybe something will happen business wise that will come in, that'll be kind of a new thing for me that I'll try out and really fall in love with. So that's kind of exciting. Like, ooh, I wonder what that'll be.
Right.
And
That new book.
Yeah, maybe that's what it'll be, a new book idea. October is the night of matches. That's adventure and action, fire, impulse, passion. The negative aspects of that would be like anger. But yeah, I just think that enthusiasm and motivation, and that's what October is going to be. And,
That's always
you know,
October for me too.
is it? You know, it
Interesting.
kind of is, yeah. And that's the Celtic New Year, you know, at the end of October. And
Hmm.
I still feel like I'm still have the like the summer high, you know, it hasn't really gotten cold and dark yet. It's just
Right.
starting
to. But in the Willamette Valley, it kind of stays warm actually, at
Yeah.
least until like the very beginning of October. And then November, the Page of Needles, that is ideas, positive change, striking while the iron's hot, initiative, enthusiasm, ambition. Um, so just like forward movement. So that feels like maybe like a re-engagement, that excitement from the previous month, and finishing out the year strong, kind of.
Right.
December then is pressing forward regardless of obstacles, ultimate
Oh,
victory,
right.
success, but also unrealistic, overbearing, you know, poor leadership. So like watching, like, am I flagging at the end of the year, which usually happens for me.
Right.
So
It's
ways
seasonal.
to,
It fits
yeah,
the season.
yeah, it does. And then the one card I drew for like the whole year was the Emperor. So this was a more like a paternal sort of authority, power, leadership,
Hmm.
but also like protection and providing solid leadership, good advice from a mentor. Um, that would have like wisdom of the ages, but it's also about self-discipline and determination to achieve your goals. So overall, I think that means for the whole year, like focusing on determination, you know, keeping my goals in sight, trusting other people that know more than me, you know, like
Right.
going ahead and checking in with someone that, you know, was going to trust, that I would trust to give me good advice.
Right.
So
That
that's
sounds like a perfect spread for a first year in business, to be
right.
honest.
I was kind
It
of
sounds
like,
perfect.
wow, this is neat. You know, I was nervous about the beginning of summer. The June and July one is kind of like, ooh, what is that going to mean? But that's okay.
Wow. I can't wait to hear this manifest. Can we review this at some point, or will you be open to reviewing at least a
Sure.
little bit
Yeah.
of it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
we could even, you know, check in every month, like, okay, the end of this month, I was supposed to be all about this, and this is what happened in that month. We could do something like that too,
Yeah, let's do
as
that. I
part of
think
the
it would be
check-in.
yeah, it'd be an interesting way to review. It's not just a technical review, it's sort of like a thematic and
Hmm.
spiritual review, so to speak.
Yeah. I really liked listening to what your card was for today too. So maybe that can be part of our 2023 Wednesday morning check-in, could be what your card is that day.
I would love to. Yeah, I would
That would
love
be
to.
super fun for me.
All right, let's do it.
All right, right on. Well, thanks for joining us. And
Absolutely.
next week, I think we're going to be, since it's the holiday week, I had considered doing like a replay, but I think what I'm going to do is I spoke at a conference just
Oh,
recently
right.
about accountability for authors. So I think we'll play that as the episode for next week, and that'll give Eric and I time to kind of like, okay, what are we going to do for the
Right. Yeah.
January? And please send in your suggestions and for topics. And yeah, we'll have to like have a meeting, Eric, about like, okay, what are we going to talk about the next
Looking
at least
forward to it.
month or something.
Yeah,
So
I
next
think I
week will
agree.
be accountability for authors. And be well. Happy writing.
Happy writing, everyone. Take care.
Bye bye.